Hey everyone, thanks for joining Learn to Play Games. My name is Lance, and in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at a brand new game currently on Kickstarter called React: The Arts of War. This is a new one by Brother Ming Games, and is a 1 to 4 player game that takes roughly 15 to 45 minutes to play, and is a competitive head-to-head game where players are going to be battling with their opponents to try to defeat them on the field of battle. So you're going to do this by playing different cards, reacting to your opponent, moving your character around, and any summons that that character potentially has, and doing a number of different things, trying to outthink and outplay your character so that you can eliminate them by dealing 3 wounds to them throughout the game. So in this video, I'm going to take you through showing you the main features of the game and showing you how it roughly works, and then showing you a sample turn to give you a good idea how this one plays so you know whether or not this is one you want to back on Kickstarter. As always, if you find my videos helpful, if you like what I do, please consider hitting that like button and subscribe to my channel. It's one of the easiest ways you can support channels like mine so we can continue to grow, be able to produce this content. If you want to get notified anytime I drop new videos, also give the notification bell a ring, and that'll let you know whenever I drop new stuff. So let's go ahead and head to the table and we'll see what this one's all about. Let's start by looking at an example of an artist's reference sheet. So each of the artists is going to have their own reference sheet, which is going to list the name of the artist at the top, along with a passive box that's going to list any starting or setup instructions that they have, as well as any passive abilities or other instructions that they have to play. Then each artist is going to list a play style, and this is just more general information about the artist and their more or less play style and how that they work or how you can use them the most effectively. Each of the artists is also going to have its own reference card, along with if it has any summons or companions, each one of them will also have their own individual reference card. Each of these reference cards is going to list the name of that artist at the top or companion at the top, and then we'll have a couple of different options to activate that particular standee throughout their turns, with the intentions being used on that person's turn or reactions being used at either turn, and I'll explain that a little bit more later. With the artist cards, they're also going to have, or most of them are going to have, an opposite side, which is going to be their ascended side, which is going to give their abilities a little bit of a boost. And as you can see on the calligrapher's card, one of her abilities actually changed to a reaction instead of an intention. So now she can use this on her turn or on another player's turn, again as the reaction. And again, I'll explain that a little bit more later. Now, most of the artists are also going to have their own custom pre-constructed deck of cards that they will have throughout the game. Now, not all of the artists will have a deck. Some will have dice or other things. But with the deck of cards, this also doubles as a timer for the game, because if a player ever has to draw a card and their deck is empty, that player immediately loses the game and the other player will win. And this deck is going to be comprised of 2 different types of cards. You're going to have reaction cards and intention cards. At the top of each of these cards is going to list the name of that card, along with an icon of the type of card it is and a color, with reaction cards having the swirling arrows and are always going to be orange, and the intention cards will have the little star and are going to be blue. Underneath that is going to be a little bit of artwork, and then again a listing of the type of card it is, with intention cards again having the blue and the reaction cards having orange. Now, some of these cards are also going to have a cost that'll be listed in this section here, and you'll have to pay that cost in order to activate the card and carry out the abilities that are listed underneath that. Now, some cards will not have a cost and will have just the blank space in there instead. And then finally, at the bottom of the card again is going to be the reactions or effects that are going to take place when resolving that card during the turn. Each of the artists will also have their own masterpiece, which is going to be comprised of 3 different cards that they are going to have to put together, and this is basically going to represent their power gauge and the way that they can ascend. Now, throughout the game, the players are going to be adding them to a track, and there's going to be 5 spaces on the track. And there are 6 cards, so the players must compete with each other to get their cards on that track and in the right order. So for example, at the beginning of each active player's turn, they're going to get to place one of their masterpiece cards on this track. So let's go ahead and say that the calligrapher is going to place her card on there, and then moving into the other player's turn, then that player goes and proceeds with one of his cards. And this is going to continue with the players going back and forth during their turns. Now, there are also actions that the player can take to be able to place an additional card on there. So let's go ahead and say, for example, that our players had a situation like this. And let's go ahead and do it like that. And let's go ahead and say that it is the calligrapher's turn. Now, during her turn, since she doesn't have any cards to place and the track is full, she can switch her card with another card by replacing it. So let's go ahead and say that she does this. Now, at this point, now she has completed her masterpiece and we'll get to flip over her card, her reference card, over to the ascended side and we'll get more abilities. Now on top of that, these cards are also going to count as that player's health, as each player only has 3 hit points. When they take damage, they're going to flip one of these cards over to its opposite side, which is going to be a grayscaled side. This has no effect on the masterpiece, but will also help you keep track of how many wounds your character has taken throughout the game. And if a character ever has 3 wounds, the game is over and that player is lost. The final thing I want to do is take you through a sample turn and give you a good idea how this one plays. I also want to go into more detail about the reaction chain, as that is one of the most important features of this game and one that makes it stand out. So I want to go into a little bit more detail about how that works. So with this one, I've played a couple of turns already and we're ready to move back into it with the calligrapher's turn. So this is going to alternate with players taking a turn. And during a player's turn, there are 4 phases that are going to be done in order, with a couple of these phases being done by both players. So each phase or each turn is going to start out with the masterpiece phase. During this phase, the active player will get to place one of their masterpiece cards on the area on their area. Now, throughout the game, players are going to be competing with each other to try to get their masterpiece completed and out there so that they can ascend their artist. And so in order to do this, I'm going to go ahead and choose one of these and place it out. So I'm just going to take this one and place it in one of those slots. From there, then it's going to move into the second phase where each of the players is going to get to draw a card into their deck, or from their deck into their hands. Now again, during this phase, if you cannot draw a card from your deck into your hands, then you have lost the game, unless you do not have a deck of cards, which a couple of the artists do not. So in that situation, then that will not take place. From there, then it's going to move into the third phase of my turn, which is the main phase. During this phase, I get to play intent cards onto the reaction chain and try to carry out those cards and potentially build up all kinds of different combos and whatnot with them. Now, an important part with this is only the active player, the player whose turn it is, can play intent cards to start a chain. Now, from there, once a intent card is played, then the players are going to go back and forth playing reaction cards if they choose to. Once both players have passed, then the chain is going to be carried out, starting with the highest number and working your way down the chain. So from there, let's go ahead and move into my main phase. So I think with my main phase, the first thing I wanted to do is I want to move my Seal Brush Spirit. So I'm going to go ahead and place that card there, and then immediately it's going to go to my opponent to choose whether or not he wants to play a reaction card to that. Right now my opponent does not, so then it bounces back over to me where I can play a reaction card if I want to. I think I'm going to pass at this point, so from there, since both players have passed, then this chain is going to be carried out. So the only card on here is the intent card, and with this one, I have chosen that top ability, so it's going to exhaust me, or exhaust the standee as the cost for that, and then I can move 1 space. So I'm going to go ahead and move this one over here. From there, then this is going to come back to me, but again, I cannot use this again during my turn as it is exhausted at this point, unless I have a way to unexhaust that particular character or standee. So from there, the next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play my calligrapher's card, and I'm going to use her top ability where I can ink every single standee on the board. So from there, again, it's going to move back over to my opponent to take their turn. And my opponent, again, is not going to play a card. So then it's going to kick back over to me, and I'm going to go ahead and play Aligning Ink. This one is a reaction, and I can ink any standee, and then I can remove 2 ink from a standee to exhaust it, or 3 to refresh it. So I'm going to go ahead and play that. Again, it's going to move to my opponent, who again is not going to choose to do anything. So now this is going to be carried out. So I'm going to go ahead and remove 3 from this standee and refresh it. So now I can potentially activate it again. All right. And then I can add an ink to any standee. So I'm going to go ahead and add that back to that one as well. So I would have added 1 to it and then removed 3. So this is going to be discarded. Now these will never go back. These are simply discarded and will not be used for the rest of the game. And then I'm going to carry this one out where, again, everybody on the field is going to be inked, and that includes my opponents and all of his standees as well. And that is also going to exhaust my artist. All right, so from there, I'm going to go ahead and play my Seal Brush Spirits again. And this time I'm going to use the bottom ability, which is going to allow her, or the spirits, if I am inked, I deal 1 damage to a target zone. So I have to choose a zone since I'm going to attack. So I'm going to go ahead and choose this zone here. Now I only attack the zone. So if something causes my opponent to move, then that's not necessarily good for me. All right, so now it's going to immediately move to my opponent to do a reaction. My opponent is definitely going to react to this as he doesn't want to be hit just yet. So he's going to go ahead and do Pivoting Step. So this one allows him to swipe with an adjacent standee up to 3 consecutive times. And you cannot swipe with the same standee more than once. All right, so he is going to swipe positions with me, which means that my poor little guy is going to be hit by its own attack, which is not good. So then it's going to go back over to me to play another reaction card if I want to. So let's see what I have here. So I'm going to go ahead and play Flowing Ink, and this is going to let me move, lets me ink any standee, and then I can move all inked standees 1 space in a chosen direction simultaneously, if they're able to do so. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then it passes again over to my opponent, who doesn't have anything else to play, so it kicks back over to me if I want to play another reaction card, which at this point I think I'm good there, and so I'm not going to play another one. So at this point then the cards are going to be carried out in order. So I'm going to go ahead and I have to start with the Flowing Ink. So again, I'm going to ink any standee on the field that I want to. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that one again, and then I'm going to move all of the inked standees 1 space in a chosen direction simultaneously. So I'm going to go ahead and move everybody this way. So all of them shift over 1 space. Then this is going to be discarded. Then next, my opponent is going to carry out his card. So I'm going to swipe with an adjacent standee. Now, unfortunately, there are no adjacent standees at this point, so he will not be able to move, and this card is simply going to be wasted. From there, then I'm going to move into the Intent card, which at this point, I am going to get to carry out that action and attack him. Now, I did also forget that I had to exhaust him for that. So then he's going to attack, and my opponent, the Dancer, is going to take a wound, so he'll flip over 1 of his cards, and now he has 1 wound on him, so I am 1 wound closer to victory with my particular character. And then from there, again, it can continue on. At this point, let's go ahead and say that I stop my turn. And so then all of the different standees are going to be refreshed, and it'll pass over to my opponent to start their turn or become the active player during the next turn. And this is going to continue going again back and forth until one of the players has taken 3 wounds, in which case at that point that player has been eliminated, or until one of the players runs out of their deck of cards, again, if they're using a deck. Well, I hope you found this video helpful in deciding whether or not this is one you want to back on Kickstarter. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave those in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them, or swing by the Kickstarter's main page and drop any questions you have there as well. I'm sure the creators would love to hear from you and are more than happy to answer any questions you have. And until next time, I'll see you later.